Three very important elements of game design: mechanics, dynamics, and aesthetics. Today we will explore these concepts through a few examples, and we will look at how to use these concepts in game design. MDA Framework, Mechanics, Dynamics, and Aesthetics, developed and taught as part of game design and tuning workshop in 2004. To understand of MDA framework, we first need to look at games. Games are created by designers and consumed by players. The difference between games and other entertainment products, such as books, music, movies, and plays, is that their consumption is relatively unpredictable. The MDA framework formalized the conception of games by breaking them into their distinct components and establishing their design counterparts. Mechanic describes the particular component of the game at the level of data representation and algorithms. Dynamics describes the runtime behavior of mechanics acting on player inputs and each other outputs over time. Aesthetics describes the desirable emotional response evoked in the player when he or she interacts with the game system. As you can see, these systems tell us that games are a craft. As I mentioned in my first video, when we learn to look at games from this perspective, we realize that everyone can make games, but they need to learn the basic. By the way, I will be very motivating for me if you subscribe to our channel and follow our social media. I check every day to see how many followers we have. Thank you very much. Now, let's go back to MDA. From designer's perspective, the mechanics give to rise dynamic system behavior, which in turn to particular aesthetic experience. From the player's perspective, aesthetics set the tone, which is born out of observable dynamics and eventually operable mechanics. When working with games, it is helpful to consider both the designer and player perspective. So, let's start with aesthetics. What makes a game fun? For this, we will analyze the books in the future. For now, let's briefly look at the types of fun. Here you see many types of fun. This list can be extended. To give an example of a few games, the themes include discovery, fantasy, expression, and narrative. Final Fantasy includes fantasy, narrative, expression, discovery, and challenge. And Doom includes challenge, sensation, and fantasy. When we look at it, we call all of this game fun, but none of them are alike. When we design our game, we need to decide which type of fun our game contains. What do we want the player to feel? Brutality and competition, serenity and fantasy. Once we have determined this, we move on to the player's behavior, the dynamics. Dynamics work to create aesthetic experience. The player's behavior is related to how they feel. If he or she is playing the high-tension game, he will play slowly and carefully. If his or her feeling full of adrenaline, he will run at enemies without thinking. This is the dynamics of game. Here we have to mention Doom's ingenious design. Doom's designer wants to give players the feeling of brutality and adrenaline, but players attack enemies from a distance and play more cautiously because they want to finish the game. This leads to an undesirable aesthetics and dynamics. To prevent this, they added a great mechanic of Doom. If we engage in melee combat with enemies and kill them brutally, we gain ammo and lives. This changed the whole dynamic and aesthetics. Players start diving into enemies more and more. It makes for a game with a lot of adrenaline. That's the power of MDA. This is where we get into mechanics. Mechanics are the various action, behaviors, and control mechanisms afforded to player within a game context. For example, the mechanics of the card game involve shuffling, trick-taking, and betting, where dynamics such as bluffing can occur. Aesthetically, they generate emotions such as curiosity, stress, and ambition. Another example, mechanics such as weapons, kills, life bar, etc. will generate dynamics such as hiding, ambushing, and taking cover. We saw how Doom overcome this. This is what we should do when we are designing a game. First, we need to identify our target audience, then what we want them to feel, then what we want them to do, and then how we want to do it. If we want to give players an adrenaline rush, we need to immerse them in enemies. So give them unlimited bullets and enemies. If we want to give players stress and panic, we need to make them play calmly and cautiously. So give them very few bullets and big enemies. The MDA framework allows us to do this. This is something to think about when designing game or analyzing games we play. What do you think about the MDA framework? Let's meet in the comments.